But we're going to switch gears a little bit and go to the NFL, where it's not official, but there's a report from in the Washington Post, Rob, that says they believe that the league is going to push for a 1-year suspension of Deshaun Watson. It's Mark Mask of the Washington Post.
Who's
he reports that the
and
NFL,
a good reporter.
Right, that the NFL will argue that Watson should receive a quote-unquote significant suspension and that the league, quote-unquote, probably will ask for a 1-year banishment. I say ask because it's got to run through the federal judge, retired federal judge, Sue Robinson. But that's what they're saying the league is probably going to ask for, Rob, a full year. And they go on in the story, they're hoping for a full year. So it says if the league thinks that the judge will go, like whatever they recommend, that she'll go lesser. So if they recommend a year, she'll cut it to 8 games or 10 games or 6 games or whatever. Then they might go even longer than a year, suspecting she'll cut it, and then they'll get the year that they want. So we'll see. But, Rob, you and I have been saying for weeks that it seems like it just seems like everything's pointing to him not being able to play this season. And at least according to this report, that's what the league would like to see as well.
Because there has been no closure to it, and all we keep getting is more details and more accusations. That's why we think that it's turning that way. It feels like that, doesn't it? It feels like it's going to be a year, like he's not going to play because of stuff still coming out, and it's just, what a mess. But then again, we saw the mess with Trevor Bauer, Chris. Baseball couldn't make a decision on him, and when they came with the decision, they came heavy-handed. I mean,
absolutely.
He got 2 years. That guy was the highest-paid player in baseball last year and didn't get to play. He got all of his money, Chris, but they put a 2-year ban on Trevor Bauer. I know he's trying to still, push back and have an appeal. I just don't know where that's going to go. And I get this here in the NFL. Whether or not they ask for 2 years, Chris, so the judge gives 1. Is that what they're trying to do? You know what I mean? Like,
you ask for 2, they might give a year and a half. Then you're like, that's a little too much. But I look,
a year and a half maybe, and then gets a year.
Rob, I gotta be honest. I feel like, and we'll see if there are any judgments or whatever, more truth comes out. But it feels like this is why I kind of think it should be, if he's guilty, I think it should be like a year. And I think, Rob, that it's getting so ugly. It's getting kind of, it's just leaving a bad taste in your mouth. And I think that the NFL has to look at it this way, Rob. We have to do something where fans will feel like he paid the price. If he's guilty, fans will feel like he paid the price. And if he comes back after 6 games or 8 games, a lot of fans aren't going to feel that way. It's still going to be kind of a yucky taste in their mouth, if you will, when he's out there playing.
Right.
If you give him a year, it's like, okay, he served his time. Obviously, they will do some PR. I assume him and his people, to kind of rehabilitate his image to the degree that they can.
Right.
And, he'll come back in a year and people will be like, okay, look, we ain't like what he did, but he paid the price.
Chances in life. I mean, let's not be. People have gotten second chances and made good on them, and some people have botched them, but some people have made good on a second chance. So I'm not against second chances, but there has to be some sort of punishment. And
Do
remember,
you agree though? It has to be enough to make people feel like, okay,
because of what you're talking about. Because of it, and Chris, just the pure numbers and the actions and the details that we've heard, right? I mean, none of them are pretty. I mean, the details are bad. You're talking about 66 women at last count. This guy was a pillar in the community. He was somebody that people respected. And then you go, well, what was he doing after hours? Like, is this who he is? Is he really this guy? Is he a predator? You know, like what? Like, those are the things that people have to be able to get over.
Right.
And I don't think
the thoughts.
that,
like every time they see him, you don't want people thinking that.
No, you don't. And so I think that there has to be some sort of real punishment, and the league is going to. We've been talking about it. I just think a year will give him time to think about what went down, have other people say, okay, he's got his punishment. And then I think people can reconcile, Chris, and say, and start the healing process and say, okay, if he's, you know, contrite about it and just fesses up and owns. I want to hear him talk about
if
that,
he did it.
Right.
Because I'll say this,
but
Rob.
I do want to hear him say, I made some mistakes. Like own it if it's true. I understand.
If it's true.
Right.
Like, because if stuff comes out and I know the numbers, it doesn't look good. Let's just keep it real. I don't know how anybody could think it looks good. 66 women and 24 are filing suit.
Right.
But
just too many. If
it comes out, enough evidence, the truth, as he's saying, comes out, and you find out, man, he really, this stuff was consensual, or he didn't do a lot of the stuff they're alleging that he did, then I don't think it should be a year. He still may get something, Rob. We've talked about how it doesn't have to be like a guy is convicted of a crime.
Well, remember, this is separate.
Right. But do you feel almost regardless it has to be a year? Because if there's enough evidence showing, you know what, he didn't do it, and that's a big if. But if it is, even if they still do a suspension, it shouldn't be the whole season.
If you say that's their finding, I just find it. The pattern is just too big. Like, I hear what you're saying. And the chances of so many women making up the same story, and they have all the texts and the DMs, Chris, and all that other stuff. Like he's not saying, oh, I don't know her. Like, oh, where'd that come from? I don't know who that is. She's making it up. No, like, he had interactions with people. He admitted that he had sex, consensual sex with some of these women and all that. He's a single guy. I know he had a girlfriend, but he wasn't married, Chris. He didn't break any laws, right? Okay, I got that. But when you talk about the NFL and this jurisdiction of we have a right to protect the shield, kind of like the John Gruden stuff, like the John Gruden stuff of name calling and personal emails. It's a slippery slope because it doesn't have to be a conviction in a court of law for them to do anything. And I just think because of the nature of what it is, they have to send a message and let people know that the NFL is not going to let anybody play in this league if they don't follow certain.
Well, here's another interesting part of the story.
Criteria?
Rob.
I don't know.
If the league, whatever they come down with, perhaps, whatever punishment they come down with, but if it's a year, there's a report also, Rob, that the Players Association, which obviously is going to defend Watson, and this is legitimate, Rob, they're saying that the report that the NFLPA would defend Watson, and their premise would be that, hold up, you've had owners accused of similar things, not 66 women and all that, but Rob, we talked about it. Robert Kraft went to a massage parlor, it turned sexual. Nothing happened to him.
I still want to see the
video. You've been looking for that video. Jerry Jones, Rob, remember the PR guy for the Cowboys who was accused of voyeurism, like filming cheerleaders and women who were, as they were changing? And nothing came of that. No punishment for Jones or Rich Dalrymple, which is the PR chief's name. And then Daniel Snyder, Rob, what was it? Women were saying they've been sexually harassed hundreds of times. And the league has not done anything about that. In fact, didn't even want a written report. That doesn't mean what Watson's done is okay, but there is a line, Rob, in the personal conduct policy for the league that says this: ownership and club or league management have traditionally been held to a higher standard and will be subject to more significant discipline when violations of the personal conduct policy occur. So they're saying the Players Association is going to say, okay, how are you don't punish these owners for something that's in the same, and none of that seems as bad as what Watson did, but it's still, it's certainly not a good look, and it certainly violates your personal conduct policy, but you're going to sit this guy out for a year when you said owners will be held to a higher standard. That's interesting, Rob. I will say, especially when you bring in, and they might do it, and this don't feel good to me, the racial dynamic. 3 white owners, and the league doesn't really do anything about these sexual harassment issues with them, but the black player, and you throw the book at him, so to speak, with a year-long suspension. It's going to be interesting if they go that route.
Well, I think the NFL has a strong case from this standpoint that they forced Jerry Richardson to sell his team after sexual.
That was a while ago.
No, but they did it.
What about these 3, though?
No, I'm not making an excuse, but they did. He was forced to sell, and so they will make the argument that when there was including sexual harassment in the workplace, the league did force him to sell. Remember, Jerry Richardson.
What about the other ones, though? What about the recent ones? I'm just saying, like, right. if I'm the defense, I'm not like, okay. I'm like, okay, fine. What about these guys?
Right, but to say that they've never done it or the owners skate is not true. Is what I'm saying.
Well, why haven't they done anything to those guys?
I don't know why, because I think it's BS. But I'm just saying.
Right.
They could say we have disciplined people when it's reached a certain thing, and in Jerry Richardson's case, it was alleged, sexual harassment of women at the workplace. So I think that they look at that. I don't think it
reached the level of what Daniel Snyder's been accused of.
Yeah,
their workplace, I should say, not him.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not like they haven't done it. And that was even when Jerry Richardson was the first former player to own a team, I think. And he was one of those old guards, Chris, and they got him out of there like ASAP. So I don't know. I'm with you.
I would say
that some of the owners have gotten away, but I don't think that's going to stop them from punishing Deshaun Watson. And they're going to say,
I will say this: I would not really want if it looks like he's guilty, I would still want him to be punished. I would, in an ideal world, the league would also do something with these owners, and we know it's not going to be equal to what Watson gets, but something. But I'll admit, it wouldn't feel good that if based on this, like say, this is their defense and an independent judge says, you know what, you're right, he's not suspended at all. I wouldn't feel good about that if it looks like he did it. But I'd rather them give all of these people, owners, player, in this case, Deshaun Watson, who have done things like this, if it's true, then they all get off scot-free.
And Jim Irsay was suspended by the NFL for 6 games and fined $500,000 when he was involved in that DWI arrest. So he did get suspended for 6 games and had a $500,000 fine, violating the league's personnel conduct policy. So right. Irsay did. The one is Robert Kraft, and him and the NFL
Snyder,
commissioner.
They didn't look into the Cowboys with Jerry Jones, with that PR guy. So there's a couple others.
But there have been some owners who have been suspended and fined or whatever. So it will be interesting. And here's the other part, Chris. I just think the Players Union, it sounds good. They're very weak. I just don't think they're going to. What are they going to do? They're going to threaten the NFL. Oh, we're not going to play. They're not going to do anything, and the NFL usually pushes them over. If they push this,
it goes to an independent, council.
Right.
It won't. It's not like the NFL's decision anymore, by itself. So I hear you though. They are a weak union, but we'd see if they. But I think that's interesting, Rod, because I think there is some truth to that. I mean, we've seen guys, you didn't want Kraft to just skate, but he did. So
no, I'm
and not that
against
what
that.
he did was what necessarily the equivalent of Watson, but still. All right, we're gonna throw it out to
Sexual
you guys.
assault is one of those things that's like the Trevor Bauer thing. As strong as the baseball union is, Chris, they had to sign off on a 2-year suspension to Trevor Bauer. Right? I mean, you know how strong baseball union is, and they were like, dude, there's nothing we can do for you. We can't help you.